Oh, we live. Ooh, we. Let me doing a couple of things here. Give me 1 second. While I'm coming on and getting things set up, can everybody tell me where they're from? Where you from? Where you at? Where you be? I am Dr. Tori J. Let me turn on. I'm going to do Instagram tonight, and as well. I know I'm just a couple of seconds late. I was trying to get everything set up. So, all right. So I am Dr. Tori J. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I wanted to do Instagram tonight. We're going to have a pretty deep conversation on fatherlessness. And as we're having this conversation, hold on, I want to. Tori J. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. That's funny. I wanted to do Instagram. I want you to hear that. So tonight I want to get into a detailed conversation around the same thing that we've been discussing. Hey, good evening. Hey, Darren. Hey, Jason. Hey, Charles. Dayani, how are you, love? Junior, how are you? So tonight we're going to continue this series that we've been on. Hey, Riki, we've been on this series for a little while now. And the series is Why Must We Heal Our Father Wounds, right? And hey, Dwayne, as we have been talking about why we must heal our father wounds, we have touched on day to day, everyday life, why we should do it. And then last week we got into relationships. Well, this week I want to talk about the mental health component. I am not a therapist. Let me throw that out there. I am the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I'm a coach. I'm a speaker. I'm a minister. I'm a few things, right? But I am not a therapist. My mission in Healing Tuesday is to help you connect the dots of your pain so that you can then recognize where your fatherlessness is playing out in that part of your life or whatever part of your life. And I need you to do that so you can take it back to a therapist. Some of the studies I've read, there are not a lot of therapists who are specialized or even trained in the area of fatherlessness. So most of the time you're going to a therapist and you're like walking through a long, detailed process that maybe you shouldn't have to walk through. If you come here and connect the dots, hey, Instagram, I am jumping on. I got several platforms going on tonight. We were actually on 4 platforms tonight. But I wanted to do Instagram because I felt like this was going to be a great conversation that we needed to bring in the Insta family. And as we want to talk about the mental health component, look, I know you guys are going to think that I'm going to talk about the same things. I'm going to address some of the stuff that has been discussed previously, as far as why we must heal our father wounds. But I want to add some things that I think is going to shake you up a bit. I think it's going to change some things for you a bit. You're going to be like, what in the world? How is that a thing? So let's get into this. I want to start with a quote that I was like, when I read it, I literally started doing some digging. And as I did the digging, it led to a particular gentleman and his statement around this. And there's some studies about it. They're still working on this, but once again, there's not a lot. But I'm going to preface this with, there's not enough studies around this, but just the thought of it is enough to make you go, I need to kind of pay attention. Yes, the Insta family. Charles is over there making fun of me. So the quote that I want to give you tonight is, growing up without a father could permanently alter the structure of the brain. That Ben Spencer said that. It could permanently alter the structure of the brain. That's an interesting thing. It shows us how important our dads are. And as more studies start to come out about it, this quote was like 2015, 2016, into 2015 going into 2016. And he started doing research around this, and it is starting to open a door to ask more questions. I want to also preface this by saying too many of you think that you've escaped the grips of fatherlessness because you're successful, you have family life, all of these things. But success is about performance, and it is not so much about the totality of who a person is. It's not all of who you are. Going to work every day can be mechanical. It can be robotic. And so just because you have a successful life, you make a lot of money, you're no longer living in poverty, that is fantastic because you've now escaped one of the issues that was impacting you in your fatherless journey if you grew up fatherless and you grew up in poverty. But I want you to realize something too, that kids who grow up fatherless are on the honor roll. So let's look at the childhood and the adulthood. You can be successful as an adult because even as a kid, you were successful. You were on the honor roll. You did well in school, but you had what the teachers call behavioral issues, much of which are not detected until we're adults or we are married. Not much of this it doesn't come to the forefront like we think. And if we have situations or like our parents are working, our mothers are working, so they're not always available and able to realize some of the stuff that's going on with us. I want to tell you just kind of a summation of a video I watched for one of my research papers I had to turn in this Sunday. Yeah, I'm tired. Like, I'm exhausted. Charles, I have been getting my rest. Charles was like, don't burn yourself out last week. No, I had to get certain things done. So yesterday I rested, did laundry and stuff, but I also rested. But listening to this therapy session with this lady, I want to tell you some things about it that jumped out at me that kind of probably resembles some of our upbringing. The therapist was talking to the young lady. She was a mother of a son. At the time, he was 9 years old. This is a pretty old video. You can tell by the videography, you know, how that has that look. It's like, I'm thinking this is the 80s. Okay. And she is describing her life with her son and how he's really good at school, but he has these behavioral issues. He's on the honor roll. He has behavioral issues. Little boys at school turning over tables. Little boys at school turning over all types of stuff, cussing out teachers. Then it comes to a point where teachers are telling her this is happening. She removes him from the regular public school or the public school in her area to another public school. And the mission hey, Lewis, and the mission in removing this little kid from this public school was to see if he had these same issues at the school. But she never told the new school that the little boy had behavioral problems. She wanted to see if this was going to manifest again. And guess what? It did. So as a mother, her position as a single mom, they gave her, you know, like, these are your options. You got to put him in an alternative school, a behavioral school. I hate having to label little kids. Labeling little kids it follows them, you know, all of their lives. And as it follows them, you know, it's an issue. But this little boy, he had a lot going on. And mom couldn't quite grasp why he had this stuff going on. The therapist then asks, is his father in his life at all? And she was like, no, father, you know, sent him on a trip to see dad one time. He didn't really act right. Dad was tripping. He didn't do what I needed him to do. And so I never let him go back. I had a couple of red flags there, Dwayne. I was like, ugh, what does that mean that dad didn't do what she needed him to do or how she needed him to do it? I don't know. I'm not here to judge, but it made me cringe a little bit because I'm like, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean that it has to be your way or the highway? So now little boy does not have a relationship with his father. And the therapist says, well, do you think it bothers him? And the mother said, I don't know. I'm thinking to myself, as a mother, how do you not know if this is bothering your child? She said she asks him and he says no. How many times growing up your mother asked you if something was bothering you? And of course, your statement is, nah, I'm good. You're not trying to deal with it. You're suppressing it. You're pushing it down even as a kid. Then she starts talking about how her brother died, who was a father figure in her child's life. And when the brother died, the little boy had a response to it. But even then the therapist said, well, do you think he's missing him and that's causing some of the behavioral issue? And she was like, I don't know. I'm not laughing at her, but I'm just like, how do you not know? Then as we go through the conversation, we find out that mom was in a 6-year relationship. The son, who is 9, saw this gentleman as his father. So if you're in a 6-year relationship, your son's been around this man since he was 3. And when they broke up, it was a loss. She said it was a loss, right? But then the therapist says, well, do you think this is a part of his behavioral issue? What do you think she said, Charles? I don't know. This little boy had lost 3 male figures in his life in a matter of a year or two. And he was having these behavioral issues, and mom had no clue. I'm not here to diss single mothers. That's not where I'm at. I get that we're so busy. Like, this mother worked 2 jobs and she went to school. She's so busy, she doesn't have time to know. Not that part. Let's get him what he needs. Let's get him in school. Let's get him. But this is part of the behavioral issue that happens in fatherless children that we're totally ignoring, or we don't know how to deal with it. So we just sweep it under the rug. This mom was sweeping it completely under the rug. She was like, one of the phrases she stated that made me go, oh, she just doesn't want to deal with it. She said, oh, that's good. That's good, Charles. I'm gonna get there. She said, I can't do anything about it anyway. Mama was like, I can't do nothing about it. So if I can't do nothing about it, I don't know. Charles said, well, Darren said, what do you mean you don't know? She doesn't know, Darren. Charles said, even as men, we are always fine. You know where you learn this? As a child. You got to be fine because mama don't know. And she doesn't know how to do anything about it other than put you in behavioral school, other than get you maybe some mentors. Said he did really well at church programs and with the mentors. And the mentors always said he had a good day today. Everybody was bracing. He couldn't even play football, you guys. This 9-year-old little boy could not play football because the coach was like, I ain't got time to be dealing with him. Like, what? Sports is where that should come out. But no, this little boy, the coach was like, not this year. Last year was enough for me. Mother still didn't know that it had to do with the loss of these 3 men in his life. They were all father figures. So when he lost these men, guess what happens? He's labeled as a child who has behavioral issues. Much of what we experience as fatherless children is summed up into behavioral issues. I always, like, when I would read those statistics, I'm like, but what is a behavioral issue or disorder, right? Like, what does that mean? And what does that look like as an adult, especially when it's not diagnosis? Cherie said, my God, and she's a single mother. Junior says, sounds like a page out of my saga. It just doesn't make any sense. So let me read to you what a behavioral disorder is. Because I believe, like, definitions are important, right? Behavioral disorders are classified as a pattern of behaviors that are disruptive and harmful to you and those around you. These disorders are typically diagnosed and treated in early childhood, but if left untreated, many of you are untreated, they can affect your adult life, making it difficult for you to maintain healthy relationships, regular employment, and other functions of a typical adult. I'm not here to, like, once again, I'm not here to tell you your life is horrible. But some of you, just like Charles said, some of you are still saying your life is fine. And it's not, but because how you categorize fine or how you look at fine is how much money you got in the bank. Your homeboy, homegirl relationships. You're not thinking about specific types of relationships. You're thinking about maybe just the little sphere that you've created. And if this is all I got, I'm good with it. But when you do that, you're limiting your life. You're limiting how life should be for you. So I'm just going to read a couple of disorders because I know. Oh, you want me to repeat it again? Okay, wait, hold on. Is it control issues or clueless? I'm not here to break that down right now, Junior. I don't know. I think some of it's all of that. Cherie said, come on now, we got to uproot these facts. Junior said, repeat that again. Okay, Junior, I'm going to repeat it again for you because you want to read it. You want to hear it. Okay. You want to hear it again. Okay. Behavioral disorders are classified as a pattern of behaviors that are disruptive and harmful to you and those around you. These disorders are typically diagnosed and treated in early childhood, but if left untreated, they affect your adult life, making it difficult for you to maintain healthy relationships, regular employment, and other functions of typical adult life. Now, for those, yes, it is healing. Look, he's got question marks, Healing Tuesday. So I want to, and I see you got them all going on. I appreciate that. So let me just let people know who are coming on. Tonight, we are talking about why we must heal our father wounds. Why we got to heal our father wounds. We grow up fatherless. A lot of us aren't reuniting. I was blessed to reunite. A lot of people haven't reunited with their fathers. That doesn't always happen the way that it happened for me. And then times when people reunite with their fathers, it is a complete bust. So I want to get into this. You need to put that in a meme. I'll work on it. I promise I'll work on it. I want to get to some of these behavioral disorders that I believe are important. Conduct disorder, starting physical altercations, engaging in bullying and threatening threatening your peers, stealing, destroying, and breaking into private property. That's very similar to what the little boy was doing in school. He was turning over tables, destroying some of the teacher's stuff, just getting, what people would quote as, oh, he's a boy. I think this is my first IG on fatherless. Yes. I don't do them very often on IG, but I'm going to work on that. That is what we typically think of when we think of a boy. He's just being a boy. That was one of the things that the mother said in the video. She was like, well, he's your typical boy. He's definitely a boy. Other indicators of conduct disorder. My battery's dying over here. Let me see where I'm at. Oh, I got to work on that. Conduct disorder are a lack of remorse, concern, empathy, an emotional response to your actions. So let's get into the adult life. You may not be stealing and destroying people's private property. Probably not a bully. But you lack remorse. You don't have no concern over nobody and nothing, and you don't have any empathy. And you rarely have an emotional response to your actions. None at all. That's an issue. That's a conduct disorder. That's how it plays out now in your adult life. Sorry, I'm kind of going back between. That statement sums up much and brings clarity to so much. Make it make sense. Okay. Opposition defiant disorder, ODD, odd. Children naturally act in defiance and throw tantrums. How many of you threw tantrums as children? How many of you threw temper tantrums as children? How many of you throw temper tantrums as adults? Some of you do. And then it talks about that behavior actually translates into adulthood, and it's called oppositional defiant disorder. But when it's in a child, you have an issue, right, of questioning authority, excessive arguing, refusing to comply, and intentionally engaging in behaviors that upset others. Now, you guys, how many of you know people who got an issue with authority even as adults? How many of you know people who just excessive with arguing? They pick a fight over anything. You breathe funny, they picking a fight. Refusing to comply just to anything. That translates over into an adult. But many of you are acting like you don't have these things going on. Intentionally engaging in behaviors that upset others. How many of y'all just know some people who just downright mean? I do. And if it's not diagnosed and treated in a young age, ODD then presents itself later in life as feeling angry at the world, feeling misunderstood, disliking authority figures, especially at work, becoming defensive when, y'all ready? Becoming defensive when presented with opposition or feedback, and blaming others for your action. Can we sit on the place of becoming defensive when presented with opposition and feedback? Let me talk to you, some of you men who grow up fatherless, and you have a situation where you are in a relationship and you don't like it when your spouse talk to you or your girlfriend talks to you about how you don't like certain things, how she doesn't like certain things. I'm talking to men right now. And because you come from a praise situation, we talked about that during prayer yesterday. Mamas praising their children. Because even in the conversation, I told you guys about this story a little bit during prayer yesterday. Even in the lady with the single mom and that whole thing, do you know that woman was still trying to figure out how to reward her son with going to Disney World? He flipping over tables. He in a behavioral disorder, like he in a behavioral school, and you trying to figure out how to take him to Disney World? Now, I get that there's some reward that has to take place, but Disney World? We need to start small with somebody like that. Maybe land, maybe an amusement park. But mama, Disney World? This is how this stuff translates into your adulthood. So I want to get into the becoming defensive when presented with opposition and feedback. Some of you need to go get some help right now on that issue. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADD, ADHD. We know all of those. You're prone to mood swings, impulsive, inability to pay attention, low frustration, right? Threshold. You get frustrated like this. Trouble coping with stress. These symptoms, they said, he'd be taking a world trip all right. Jason's over here talking about he'd be taking a world trip all right. So let's go into how this plays out in your adult life. These symptoms can lead to complications like financial instability, unemployment, frequent trouble with law enforcement, substance abuse or misuse, and unstable relationships. You didn't think ADD did all of that, did you? Because they was making about the attention. No, low frustration threshold and the ability to cope with stress, the inability to cope with stress, that's going to drive a whole relationship crazy. But I'm telling you right now, if you guys don't get your children diagnosed, or if you weren't diagnosed as a child, I need you to connect the dots to this. This is you. This is you. OCD. Now, when I think of OCD, you guys, when I read this one, and I think of OCD as being, I'm trying to put things together and I'm always cleaning. How many of y'all thought of OCD as that too? I thought of OCD as that whole thing where I'm cleaning things, keeping things neat. Nope. Oh, okay. Cherie said, it's me. It's me. Okay, wait, go. I'm numb. I'm so numb, non-responsive, lack of emotions. It's scary. Yeah, you got to work on that. That's from the pain, babe. That's from the pain. So let's go to OCD. I didn't think of OCD as a worrying characteristic, but it is. It's a constant state of worrying. Thoughts, actions, and impulses are chronic. They're uncontrollable and intrusive. Cleaning, washing, all of that, right? But you repeat phrases, prayers. They even talk about how you can repeat prayers. Following strict routines repeatedly, counting and checking. But it's a state of worrying. You have severe doubt and uncertainty. You need to have things in order or symmetrical, right? That's the part that we recognize with OCD. An ideation about losing control or harming yourself or others. Unwanted aggression or sexual thoughts is an OCD situation. That's an OCD behavioral issue. Now, I'm sorry, I never thought that. You could have never told me that that's what OCD was, but I learned it today. Behavioral addiction. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. I'm just going to list it early or later, but I want to deal with it here. A lot of us get caught up in thinking addiction is always about drugs or substance abuse, but it's not. You can have addictive personality. Addiction occurs when your brain associates pleasure and activates a reward mechanism when engaging in that particular activity. That can be working out, gambling, sex, internet shopping. Oh, how many of us do some retail therapy? Yes. That's 70% of the church repeating the prayers. So they OCD over there, Jason. Oh, I had a whole conversation about church today. How we use church to hide and escape from reality. We use church Sunday morning, we escape in reality. And that's a whole behavioral conversation in itself. And I get why people do it, but you go to church and you're like, God just gonna do it all. Jesus covered it all. And I'm not fatherless because God is my father and my rent is paid. And then you show up Monday morning, and you still ain't got your rent paid. You still fatherless. You got all these issues. You can't use church for just that. Maybe it should be some encouraging and some good feelings, but you need to go to therapy. You need to get to therapy. So this behavioral addiction is gambling, sex, internet shopping, video games, gentlemen, plastic surgery, binge eating, and risky behavior, right? If you have an addictive personality or behavioral disorder, you might neglect your family and work responsibilities, or you might be the overly excessive provider and you work all the time. You become addicted to even work. The behavior as a way to cope with your emotions. You deny and even hide your problems and continue the behavior despite wanting to stop or cut back. All these behavioral addictions can lead to problems in your finances, relationships, and threaten your overall health completely. I am concerned about this phone over here. Let's see if maybe I can use this to charge it. I don't know. I've never tried this, but we're going to try it today. Hey, all right. MacBook Pro, the power cord works with a Samsung Note Plus. Isn't that something? I just learned something. So I won't lose you guys over there. So let's look at this whole piece when we're talking about, as I ended with that situation, where we're simply talking about how these things are impacting our overall health and these behavioral issues that we have. I have learned that being a child who is fatherless, it actually brings upon emotional distress and depression and a sense of low self-esteem. I'm going to go through some of the stuff we already know. I've covered some stuff we didn't know. I want to go through some of the stuff we already know. I want to remind you, because I need to remind you tonight. I need to remind you that you have some things going on that I'm going to bring insight to, but I want to remind you of some of the stuff you have going on that maybe you've kind of forgotten. And I need to put it back in your remembrance here. So let's look at this here. Linda said, why are you always talking about me in these lives? I was thinking, I didn't mention your name, but I get what you're saying now. First OCD, now this. Yes. So now you have a position where fatherless children are more likely to, right, be aggressive. Let's talk about that a little deeper. Aggression doesn't look the same for everybody. Some people are quick to anger. Others have a quiet anger. How many of you have ever met a person, you in the room with them, and you can feel the anger bubbling, right? Many of you hide your anger because you know that it's not acceptable to just go off in public. Some of y'all go off in public. These videos we see in lately, they go off in public. But many people don't know that you have a quiet anger. The people who know are those closest to you. And that quiet anger is a whole situation. That quiet anger, that is rage, you guys. And for men, people tell you angry all the time and you're like, no, I'm not, I'm good. Yes, you are. People can feel it. Just because anger doesn't look like you think it's supposed to look, or your definition of it, doesn't make it any less angry. Doesn't make it any less aggressive. Depression. That's number 2. More likely to be depressed. Depression is one of those tricky things. Yes, Jason, it makes your hair stand on end. Like, these people are in a situation. But depression is a tricky thing. What I have seen is some people are so used to living in depression, they have no idea that's what it is. They grew up in a depressive state, and so they become adults thinking that this is how they're supposed to feel. This is how they're supposed to be. And I can tell you, it is not. Depression doesn't look like, oh, I'm sad and I'm sitting in a dark room all the time. I have bouts of depression. My mother can text me, call me, and send me on a whole spiral. Ask Varric. That's where, and some of you daddies in these cases and some of your crazy threats can send a sister on a whole spiral where I have days where I just need to lay in the bed and watch the movies. I just need to lay in the bed and kick it. I don't need to have anything else pressing against me. But depression is not just an overwhelming sense of sadness. It is a dark place, but it is not this overwhelming sense of sadness all the time. And if you don't know, like if this is how you've always lived, many of you have no idea that depression is really the thing you're dealing with. Your relationships are bad, not because you're a bad person, because you're depressed. And depression shows up in many ways. It shows up in a bipolar situation where you go from being normal to manic, back to normal, manic, because something's triggering you. Something's triggering you. It could be that opposition, that feedback took you back to some places. Could be. But recognize that if some things are going a different kind of way and people are asking you certain questions, or maybe even a therapist or somebody says, I think you're depressed. Don't fight them. Go ask questions. Go dig deeper. Too many times, men, you guys are fighting the therapist or fighting the people who are speaking into your life. You're fighting them because you got opposition defiant disorder. Who are you to tell me who I am? Who are you to tell me what I got? I'm a therapist and I know what I'm looking at. I can spot a fatherless person just walking down the street half the time. People are like, really? Now, I'm exaggerating. It's not just walking down the street, but you say a few words to me and I'll be like, they fatherless. Even if you tell me you're not fatherless initially, I promise you I'll find out how and connect you to it. I learned this like 3 weeks ago where everyone was saying, I never knew I was fatherless till I met you. Mark said it. My girlfriend Lauren said it. Another lady said it. Like multiple people are like, because we have normalized this dysfunction in so many ways. We've normalized this pandemic in so many ways, this pandemic of fatherlessness, that we don't even know when we are fatherless. So how in the handkerchief do you think you know when you're depressed? You don't even know when you're fatherless. I'm gonna need you to go and get the help that you need. Number 3, low self-esteem. You hide behind, let me pause before I want to say this. Low self-esteem. I ain't got low self-esteem. If you are overly arrogant, like over the top arrogant, you hide behind your arrogance and you have a false sense of confidence. Because as soon as something happens, your insecurities are triggered. Everybody has a sense of, some insecurities. But how do you respond when your insecurities and your low self-esteem rises to the top? How do you respond? Jason over here, hashtag, he said handkerchief depression. Hashtag handkerchief depression. We're going to go there. You do poorly in school. Now, many of you are like, well, I didn't do poorly in school. We've already talked about being on the honor roll, but also having behavioral disorders. Number 5, incarcerated and prone to commit suicide. Use of drugs. We talked about addictive personality already. I want to ask you a question. I'm going to give you a phrase first, because we talk about fatherlessness on here like it ain't a painful situation. And I know that it is. I know that my content is triggering. I know that I'm not going to have millions of people on this live at this point. I get it. I'm not tripping on that. People get caught up in numbers. I don't, because I watch the numbers go up because people watch in secret. And a lot of my friends have told me, I watch in the shadow, right? They know how to watch without actually clicking on where we can see the numbers. I've had friends call and tell me, I did this and I heard you say it. And I was like, you were on? Oh yeah, I watch, behind the scenes where you can't tell that I'm on. I was like, that's cool. I'm not tripping on that. So I know that that's what's going on with my content is very much so triggering, but I'm not trying to trigger you. I'm trying to connect the dots so that you can go take this to your therapist. But I want to know, does thinking about your fatherless childhood bring up dark memories? If that is true, put a 1 in the box. If bringing up your fatherless stuff and talking about it brings up dark memories, put a 1 in the box. Put a 2 in the box. No, I don't have any dark memories around my fatherlessness. Put a 2 in the box if that's the case, but put a 1 in the box if you've got some dark memories and having these conversations bring up dark memories for you. I got to go back to you guys talking. The moment you told me I was trauma bonding myself to TFRM, you made me take a long look at all my relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to be honest about our attractions to people and groups. Oh, see, numbers of people you heal and numbers of people you talk to are totally different numbers. Yeah, totally different numbers. Dayani comes on and she says, Linda says she's got a 1. Yes, it does bring up bad memories. Dayani says 100%. Anybody else willing to jump out there? This is an engaging conversation. I like to have the engagement. I want to give you guys a second. It's like playing the music, the Jeopardy music. Ding, 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 ding. 1 in the box if it brings up dark memories. 2 in the box. No, I don't have any dark memories about it. Lazala, okay. She says 1. Yeah. And the memories create feelings. The memories create feelings. And that's one of the certifications I have. I'm a cognitive behavioral coach. And we talk about a lot of feelings in our coaching sessions that I have with different groups. And I can tell you that feelings is a situation. And part of the issue with feelings, because memories trigger feelings, right? When you think about it, it's dark and it triggers a feeling. And in triggering that feeling, we have to recognize that we never learn the meaning of what emotions are and what emotions we really felt at the time. We were so busy as children trying to survive. Too many fatherless children grow up in survival mode and become adults who then live in survival mode. So you don't have time to deal with feelings, emotions. What do you mean? I got to work. I got to make this money. I'm not going to live in poverty, because poverty creates its own mental health issues, its own mental health challenges, just poverty alone. So many of you, I will definitely congratulate you because you have escaped all of the challenges that poverty will bring into your life and even your children's lives by having, a salary that can feed your children, and they're not worried about what they're going to eat. They're not worried about if the lights are going to cut off. They're not worried about, are they going to have a place to live? Some of you grew up where you didn't know what the day-to-day situation was going to be. And so you lived in fear and you had lots of anxiety. Jason said, no dark memories, but I realized the deficit it created and what I have to do to dive into my stuff. Okay. So when you don't learn about emotions and what you feel at the time, then you grow up and you have to deal with this stuff, right? And the stuff is feelings. Lots of my coaching clients struggle with feelings. Cherie said it. She's like, child, I'm numb. Many have misplaced emotions and feelings, or they filter. I won't even say or. Many have misplaced emotions and feelings, period. But then there's this space where we filter experiences that we are currently having through past hurts, and we alter the current experience we're having. The situation that you're feeling is not the current situation. But because you haven't dealt with feelings, you don't know how to communicate, you don't know what an emotion is, you put that off on the person that you're currently engaging with. You're filtering it in the wrong way. And that what happens is that emotion comes up and it gives you the feelings of whatever that initial root issue was. And you think that's the current situation. It's not. You haven't dealt with some old stuff, and you got to deal with the old stuff. You got to recognize one of the things I teach my coaching clients is you have to pay attention to what you're thinking. What are you thinking on a regular basis? Many of you don't even know. You're having a bad day. You haven't even thought about what you're thinking. You were thinking that I'm going to have a bad day. You were thinking this is a mess. You were thinking, forget all of this. Think about what you're thinking about. Because if you don't, you won't know why you're reacting the way that you're reacting. You've got to think about what you're thinking about. Linda said, my feelings are overwhelming. Like as a kid, I was never allowed to be heard. So as an adult, now I'm allowed to feel. And how do I keep those emotions in line and be rational? Okay. My mom speaks about different things that happened to me. I'm not sure what she is speaking. I've suppressed so much, I don't even have memory of it anymore. Cherie, you sound like my mother. That's a conversation that I've had with her before. The trauma is so deep that you just don't even know what you're feeling. And so what you've done is you've suppressed feelings. You've pushed it all down. But can I ask you guys something? Linda mentioned a feeling that she's having, overwhelmed, right? I want to ask some of you, give me another feeling that you're feeling. Because what I'm going to do is give you guys I want to put this feelings chart. A lot of you don't know what a feeling is. You're like, a feeling? I have no idea. I don't even know what that looks like. A feeling? What's a feeling that you have? I think I can put this JPEG in here. Okay, hold on. I think it'll allow me to do that. Nope, it won't. I'm going to have to figure that out. I thought it allowed me to put it in the comment. What I'm going to do is create a post. I'll create a post right now because I'll forget y'all. And Jason, you'll have to come to Facebook to see the feelings chart. Some of you don't even know what a feeling is. You got to know what feelings are in order to say, I feel a certain kind of way. Got to know. So there you go. I put it above the actual conversation right now. So let me see what you guys said. People are untrustworthy. And Darren said warning signs. I see you, Cherie. Untrustworthy. That's a good one. That's a really good one. So I'm gonna let y'all look at the feelings chart because I know many of you don't know. You think you know, like most of us know anger, happy, sad. We'll put depressed in there because that's another one, right? We know that. We know those, right? But agitated, annoyed, bitter, confrontational, right? All fall under anger. And that's the other part. See, there's 4 main categories of feelings: anger, sadness, fear, and shame. But underneath all of those categories are other things. Anger is mad, livid, spiteful, frustrated, jealous, steamed, resentful, fed up, vindictive, aggressive. Sadness is distraught, empty, heartsick, heavy, hopeless, lost, loveless, weak, crushed, right? Depressed, rejected, overwhelmed, hurt. That's under sadness. Fear, jittery, anxious, distracted is under fear. Stunned, powerless, trapped. You feel trapped, terrified, threatened, uncontrollable. You're uncontrollable? That's fear. Checked out is under the category of fear. Checked out. Abandoned, under fear. The other one is shame. So that's disgust, violated, horrified, used, ugly. Many of you would have never put these in feelings. And hopeless shows up. Isn't hopeless already on here somewhere? No. Okay, I see hopeless under shame. But look at that chart. That's a really detailed chart. It's a really good chart to look at. I got you. Jason said anger, sadness, fear, and shame. Yeah, you listed the 4 categories for me. Therapist. How does it make you feel? I'm not very good at describing my emotions. Maybe you can just hold up a bunch of meme pictures until I see one that would normally, I'm not laughing at you, Cherie, but I get what you're saying. Normally comment the word mood. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we do in the peer groups is the kids have to tell us the feeling that they have. So there's a chart and they hit which one that is, or they have a sticky note and they put it in front of them on how they feel. Jason said, wow. Lazala said, I have a lot of different feelings about one situation. My dad died when I was young due to an illness. Yep. We all have some situations and how we feel about the experience we had. But what does that look like? And you can choose multiple feelings. You're not positioned or pigeonholed into one feeling. You can have multiple feelings. You can have all of those feelings, the sadness, the shame, the guilt, you can have all of that. Dayani said, fear and shame over here. Sweet baby, I do understand. Jason, I had to put it. It won't let me put it on the actual in the comment section. It's a JPEG, so I don't know why, but I posted it above our live, so you can go on to the Facebook page and find the feelings chart. But yeah, I need us to deal with this. Right? I need us to deal with this. Yes, happiness is a conversation. Happiness, all of it, but we know that, right? We know. I want us to deal with these 4 categories of feelings and the emotional disturbance part of the feelings. Because fatherlessness doesn't typically bring up warm and fuzzy feelings. That's why we're not talking about happiness as a feeling. I wanted to bring up the disturbance factor. I want to take us someplace really quickly before we get off of here tonight that I found like, boom. And this is a different place. This is something new. I ordered the book. I could get it with my schoolwork, so that was kind of perfect. I ordered this book, and this book actually says something that I want you to listen to really quickly. I want you to hear me out. I want to minimize this. Sorry, I'm clicking between different screens. It says, we use dysfunctional relationships to hide from intimacy. The reason we must heal our father wound is because we will use dysfunctional relationships to hide from intimacy. And I hope you're ready for the dysfunctional relationship that this book is specifying. This is a mental health component. Dysfunctional relationships and hiding from intimacy is a mental health issue. And let me say this to you too. Fatherlessness is a mental health issue. I know you guys want to say, but my child, and I'm good, and my child. You're not good. Stop saying that. Success does not equate to being good. Having money in the bank does not equate to being good. And if you keep saying that, you have altered your reality. And that's one thing I know about us. We really know how to live in a different reality. We really know how to live someplace that's not true. I don't get the ability to do that. I just don't get the ability to do that. I have to live in reality. Faith is one thing, but just living in some place that's not real, you're not even doing the steps to get there. I can't live there. But let's really deal with this. Why we need to heal our fatherless wound, our father wound, because this part right here, we use dysfunctional relationships to hide from intimacy. There's an unconscious defense system created by an individual to avoid the vulnerability that comes with investment in others. And some of you think you're investing. Some of you think that you're sold out. Some of you think that, yes, I love them, and but the other person doesn't feel it. And it's not solely them. There's something about you that may be withholding a part of you, and that person can feel it. It's a defense mechanism. It's a way to protect yourself. And I don't even want to jump ahead of the definition. It even talks about how we develop brain lock and ear relationships. Like, you don't even care. And brain lock leads me back to the initial statement that I was able to say. I know the guy's doing more research and trying to really understand it. But growing up without a father could potentially permanently alter the structure of the brain. Do we get how that could be a thing? When we're using all of these other things, defense mechanisms, we don't recognize feelings. We don't get to sit in our emotions. We don't even know what emotion is. We've got all of these behavioral disorders. That wasn't how God created your brain to be. I want to deal with this really quickly. I got a few minutes. We use dysfunctional relationships to hide from intimacy. What is the dysfunctional relationship we use? There's a connection between early childhood experiences with dysfunctional caregivers and the anxiety that drives affected individuals to devise roles for themselves, meaning a song and dance, a performance. And they do it as a way to protect themselves from the risks inherent to close relationships, empathy, intimacy, emotional risk, and emotional investment. So many of you are using your single mother as a way of escape from vulnerability and intimacy. Many of you go back to your single mother as a way of escape when you're being forced to deal with vulnerability and intimacy, knowing that it is dysfunctional. That's a dysfunctional relationship, but it's the one you're comfortable with. It's the one you know. It's the one, like, you know, and that was the root of all dysfunctional relationships for you. But you retreat to your single mom. And maybe you don't go particularly to them, but you allow your head to be there. You allow your heart to be there. Experiencing all of this anxiety, but it's driving you back to the person who created it. The devil you know. You rather deal with the devil you know than the devil you don't, right? Avoiding and hiding from intimacy will drive you back to the person who originally created the dysfunctional behavior and the issue with intimacy. You're performing in relationships, and the people you're in relationships know it. But you're doing it as a protection. It's a defense mechanism. You don't want nobody to know what's really going on in your heart. You don't want nobody to really know what trauma you've been through. And if a person is in relationship with you, I promise they know. They suspect. They have an idea. They have an understanding. Linda says, I feel like fatherless mothers think like, at least you know how this hurts. This hurts you. I am perplexed in the least to say, why do we do this? I've done it. I've done it when I'm feeling down. I call my mother sometimes. I'll be like, because my mama. I don't tell her certain things. It can go a different way. But I'm not intimate with her like I should be either. Because I'm still protecting it, right? I'm guarding. Because I know the hurt that can come from that relationship. But I need you guys, like that, reading that today for this, because I was Googling a bunch of different things, like trying to, and I'm doing, I had to do a research paper. So there was a lot. Look, you want to see my note cards from and this is just some note cards from the research stuff I had to do. Like, these are just some of the note cards, like stuff, different, journals that I was reading. I was pulling out key things. That's just some of them. And as I'm looking at it, I run across things that I'm like, whoa. And this was one of them. Dysfunctional relationships to hide from intimacy. You run back to the person who created the issue within you in the first place. And because it's your mama, you're like, you know what? That's my mama. My mama ain't a bad person. These things don't make any of us bad people. Hurt doesn't make you a bad person. Trauma doesn't make you a bad person. It's what you do with it. It's like the Bible says, be angry, but sin not. Unfortunately, too many people have sinned in the midst of being angry. Unfortunately, some people have not healed, and so therefore their bitterness turns things into a different situation. And that becomes the problem. And it does make people some mean, horrible types of people. But I can tell you, you can heal from this. And it doesn't mean that you are a horrible person. It just means you got some work to do. Not all of us fall underneath that category. Do I really have to have a positive interaction relationship with my mom in order to heal? Or can I heal from my trauma and politely excuse myself? Yeah, you can heal from your trauma and politely excuse yourself. I've been following this young lady on Instagram. What is she called? Black Mother Wound or something like that. And one of the reasons she said that we continue to have these wounds is we keep going to our mothers, trying to get them to acknowledge and fess up and have a relationship with them. And that is not going to heal it. It's not. I've had those kind of conversations with my mother, and it did bring some healing, but that's overwhelming for them too, because they're traumatized from their mother. My mother's mother isn't here anymore. And even if she was, my mother probably wouldn't say anything. It's like that scenario where the hostage develops an attachment to the abductors. Yeah, that's called, the syndrome. What's the syndrome, y'all? Somebody knows it. Jump in. What's the syndrome? When you become, you have an attachment to those who kidnap you or abduct you. Let me see if I can look it up by the time, y'all. Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, that's it. Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah. There you go. Linda jumped in. She's like, Stockholm. Yeah, that's a thing. And we have it with our mothers. So I want to encourage you tonight. I know I dumped a lot on you. I know you're listening to a lot of stuff, and I know Darren has told me a few times, child, we thinking. But I want you to know that I didn't dump that on you for you to be triggered or for you to be in a position where you feel like life is impossible. There are therapists out there who can help you with this, but I hope you can, go back and look and take notes. Or if you took notes, I know our friend Nydia, who used to jump on all the time, she used to take notes. And so maybe you grab your pen and your paper and you go back through this and you start looking through what resonated with you so that you can make an appointment with a therapist and be very specific about what it is that you're dealing with and start from there. Because going to a therapist's office and saying, I think I'm depressed, some of them will walk you through your childhood. Some of them will initiate the conversation. I would say most of them. What was your childhood like? But if you don't know you're fatherless, that's not even going to come on the table for many of you. You're not even going to put that on the table. So I'm going to say goodnight to Instagram over here because I know it's going to cut off. So let's say goodnight over here. But I want to be able to let you guys know that, sorry, I was listening to something. I want you to know that this is to help you. This is to help you grow. This is to help you be better. This is to help you heal. Like Linda's asking, well, do I have to have a relationship with my mother in order to heal? I did some therapy work without my mother. A lot of therapy work I've done without my mother. And it gave me another perspective. When we figure out our parents and who they are and how they are, when we figured that out and we're okay with it, like they were kids too at one point in time. They were kids as well at some point, and we have to deal with, like, it's okay. They were kids and they were a woman or a man before they showed up as our parents. That brings compassion and empathy. You can't be harsh on your mother the whole time. Like, your mother has her own set of issues she's trying to deal with. Hi, Kissa. Y'all's Google was faster than mine. Linda says, weird you are having this conversation because my sister wants me to talk to my mom again, and I think she has Stockholm Syndrome. Well, I had a conversation with a friend of mine about this today. Every child is going to have a different experience with their parents. And a lot of times there's going to be one of the siblings who's trying to push you to have a relationship with the parent that you just don't want to have because of how it impacts you. I'm going to tell you, go to a therapist first before you even engage in that, because that could set you back in ways that you don't even want to deal with. I'm glad, Jason, you all over there on Clubhouse. I have an iPad, but I haven't been able to get on Clubhouse because my iPad's, it ain't right. So I had to, I was trying to get another one. I had to buy my MacBook. So that put that on hold. But I heard that Clubhouse is opened up to us Android users when it comes to the phone. And so I will be on Clubhouse and I will record all of this, do the Clubhouse as well when I'm doing Healing Tuesdays. But I wanted to just drop that in your laps tonight. I hope that it helped you navigate some of the challenges you're having. And once again, go see a therapist. You cannot be fatherless and not see a therapist. And I'm going to give you need to do a minimum 6 months to a year, weekly conversations with a therapist. You cannot do this without the work. And I know some people are like, oh, well, I use you, Dr. Tori. Don't use me. You use me to connect the dots and deliver it to your therapist in a nice little package and go get the help you need. Because without that, you don't have the tools to fight. You don't have the real tools to heal. I'm not able to give you tools on here. I am not a licensed practitioner, and I do not play one on TV. And I'm not going to play one on here. But being in this work and being a spiritual leader, I know what it looks like, and I know how to help you. I need you to recognize something. I'm going to do a meme on this in the next couple of days. As spiritual individuals, at church we call, they got a spirit, they got a demonic spirit, or they got a spirit on them, and people name the spirits. But have you ever noticed how the spirits in the Christian world actually go with the diagnoses in the psychological, mental health, psychiatry world? Have you ever noticed that? That's why you need Jesus and therapy. Okay. Just so you know. And just so I can end this, I'm Dr. Tori J. I am the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. Still keep me in your prayers. I am in the midst of the craziest season of my life. It doesn't feel good. It hurts really, really bad, but I can recognize and have empathy for what I'm going through in my relationship, because I recognize the challenges that exist in the relationship. So, and how most of them point back to fatherlessness and not dealing with those wounds or those traumas and being triggered by them. Amanda, good to see you, Amanda. She said, that's an interesting observation. So you guys have a great night. I will keep you up to date on some of the things that are going on. And yeah, you have a great night. I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.